Hey there, it's Chris, and welcome back to the Kai Schulin Project, and also welcome back to a very special 100th video for the Laurelman Project. So, we made it. We're actually, since the end of May, we're actually kind of getting somewhere. We do finally have a backlog free of stuff to go, where we have kind of a little more of a special session going on today. Yes, we're just going to be continuing the project, but I say it's a special session because we get to do a little more show and tell. Because in this session, we are going to be working on that camouflage cloak that Kai is wearing over here. So, and that's why I have these two ladies out. We have Rain for the Night Witch over here, and we have Marissa from the, well, it's a Toho fan game. Oh god, if I can remember the name of this. Kamekyu Daisetsu or something like that. It's the Tohovania fan game. Where, just to give a couple ideas and a couple structuring techniques for doing said camo on the side, we're going to start with Marissa over here. Again, now, I know I mentioned this in the Bang project I brought her out, and she was never finished. I ran out of clay and was kind of getting tired of doing the project to begin with, so the hat's not done, the hair's not done. It was never a finished product, or finished project in the end. But what's important to this one is this very kind of bad cape that comes down. This thing was gigantic. And the problem I had with this one was when I first made it, it was so massive, it literally couldn't hold itself up. I put it on and it ripped itself apart because the weight just pulled it right down. Even trying to add the scarf to it didn't quite add enough to the top. It ripped itself apart. So take two on this piece. Again, it does come off. I made her to come apart in pieces. The shoe's the first one I made to come apart in pieces. Was similar to the knee pads that I did and the link of the shield that I showed off before and the knee pads on Kai. There's a metal frame that goes around the edge. And then I filled that in with, I believe it was either tape or foil or something inside that I then kind of smushed sandwich-wise with clay on either side. And what happens, I'd said on a small scale on the knee pads, it works pretty well. On a large scale, there are a lot of air pockets and stuff in here. It didn't really work super well. So for a big flat area like this, trying to do a kind of a fabric piece runs into some problems. The hat, other problems. Now I can see how flat her head is. That's not good. So, okay, so that one was done quite a while ago. So earlier this year, I went and I did Rain here for the Night Witch. And we had to go and structure out this skirt that comes down. So how do we do that? I used nothing. There is no structure whatsoever in any of this fabric going on here, and it holds itself up really, really well. So what's going on with this one is if we take, for structuring 101, if we have this nice piece of paper, let's figure this is the fabric material you're making that out of, and you hold it up, it has zero structure. It just flops over, it's going to break, it's going to bend. No good is going to come of that. However, if we take it and we put ridges inside it, this is similar if you look at a warehouse and look up your kind of warehouse store, you go to like a Home Depot or a Best Buy or a Walmart or any of those kind of big kind of super box stores, you kind of look up at the ceiling, you see the corrugated metal up there. What happens is you make corrugated metal and it now has structure. The second you bend this, it gives it structure. So what's actually holding up the skirt over here is the fact that it's shaped like a Pringles chip. It goes up, down. These undulations in here are what's giving it the structure. So it doesn't need an internal form in order to hold itself up. Now, when we come back, if we're going to slide some of these things out of the way, give me 1 second. We don't need everybody in the way right now. Let's go and move you kind of back there. And if we move Kai into focus, which everything is hardened, and just for fun, I just kind of mocked up a hat real quick to see how it's going to work, and I think it works out really well. I'm looking forward to when we actually get the hat and hair for real on here, but For the time being, might as well just keep this on. It looks cool that way. So we hardened everything. We're good. That's in there. Head's in there. Only thing that happened is somewhere along the line, this arm twisted a little bit between taking it off and hardening it. So the hand isn't actually resting on her hip, which is slightly unfortunate. But outside of literally cutting the arm apart somewhere and twisting it and putting it back, which I could always do. Again, you can always fix things no matter where things are. You can always fix things. It's just a matter of how much effort you want to put into it. We're in there. Everything on here is now hard. She's in, I think, 8 separate pieces right now. We have the legs. We have the 2 knee pads. That's 3. We have the torso is 4. Arm 5. Arm 6. Head 7. Knife 8. So she's already comes apart into a lot of pieces as is. And we're going to have a little bit of a combination of the 2 going on here. I don't plan on putting an internal structure into this camo on the side, so we're going to be a lot like Rain over there. But it does droop down pretty straight down. However, as it wraps around the arm, you can see it kind of has a little wiggle in the back there where it comes off. It kind of droops off of both. Those little undulations are going to give it some strength as it wraps around, is going to help give it the strength. So I think we're going to be fine without actually adding an internal structure or any kind of core to this. What that means is today I'm just going to try to get a rough idea of what this is going to turn into. And then next session we'll kind of start refining it. I may have her positioned rather than on the wood, on the finished, or on the... I tend to use, like I've shown before, a piece of the clay that I've just never used before. I kind of use as a base when I stick it in the oven. I may stick it on that. And then, like I had on Rain's, is I then, after she was on here, I had external forms holding it up to keep the form until I got to the hardening part. So then after I hardened it, I could take the exterior wires, the external wires out, and it was then solidified at that point. So today's goal is just try to get a rough form, and this is going to probably wind up using a lot of clay. So give me 1 second. I need to clean up my work area here a little bit, which... Sorry, Rain, that means I need to move you out of the way, because I like having some room to operate, and I don't want to have problems. Also, you can see I don't have Rain wearing her hat at the time, because what I didn't really take into account when I first made this is when the hat goes up on here, all you get is shadow. It's not sitting 100% in the right place, but all you get is shadow over the eyes, and you kind of lose the entire face. So when I have her kind of on display, I tend to not have the hat on her. It just kind of works out better that way, so I can at least see the face. I thought the face turned out pretty good on that one. So, okay, let me move you out of the way, because she's somewhat delicate, being she's only on 1 foot. And that can become problems. Actually, she's on 1 foot, and I believe comes apart into 12 different pieces. So that becomes problems. We don't need her to get destroyed. Okay, now. This is going to wind up being our MVP of the day, for sure. So, and we are going to be keeping this at the thickest it can possibly go for all of this. Now her camo is going to wind up being probably thicker than you think it's going to be when you look at it at the edges. Because again, when we're done with everything, we're likely going to go and crimp the edges so it looks like it feels thinner than what it is. But no, it's going to wind up being pretty good size. Okay, I can already see with that there are little air pockets kind of in here, which is super cool. We don't want that. And not that it really matters at this point anyway, because we're going to have a lot of clay to use. Anytime I do like the cloak I did on Rydia, she has like the floats that come off her arms plus the cape in the back. Anytime we have like the kind of scarves and stuff like that, all of these things just wind up, anything that has to do with like fabric, just uses a lot more clay than what it feels like it should. So I'm just going to knead this stuff a little bit. And we're going to see what we do. Now, I do not have any experience on... Since college, when I made, let's say, one of my own Halloween costumes, I really have no experience, or very little experience, working with fabric and tailoring and all of that. So when I do these models, I tend to kind of get it, I'll cut the head, cut the hole in the head, kind of bring it down, I kind of cut it in place to the pieces I need. And that's kind of my modus operandi for doing this. And we're going to be doing that over here. Okay, so we're getting a big old piece ready to go right now. We're actually slightly too big to fit inside this thing. Let's cut an end off. Now, unfortunately, I can't do this entire thing in one piece. I just do not have... This is not big enough to do this whole thing in one go. And that said, the camouflage is actually, I believe, like 3 pieces put together anyway. If we take this out, you can see from the back we have the 2 sides that come over, that are going to come over the arms and kind of come down. Those are each individual pieces. If we come back to the front, you can then see there's a part that goes over the top and comes out, which you can see it's that back part. The back, we see the 2 sides, we have the back part, and then when we come back to the front, we have this front piece that comes down. So this will be several pieces kind of put together in the end. And yeah, it would be nice molding this whole thing into one piece that goes over and just be bim bam boom done. But I'm not going to be able to get a single piece of this that's going to be big enough to go down the arm, down the back. So much like that is done in multiple pieces, I'm going to need to make this in multiple pieces and put it together, which is going to probably be slightly problematic. So I think to start with, what I want is to have the base piece first, which we look on the back, it looks like it's that upper part that kind of comes down as a V in the middle of her back and kind of goes up over the shoulders. Because then when we come back here, that kind of comes down, it kind of comes over the chest, and then the front piece goes on top. So I think I'll make that first piece first, that back one first. We can put the front piece and then attach to that, and then we just attach the sides kind of, or rather I'll probably do the sides first, and then the other. So I don't need, like I said, I'm just going to make this thing, get as much out of this as I can right now. Thankfully, I do still have one more thing of clay I haven't opened, because Bang used a little over, I think Bang used either like right at 1 or a little over 1. Once this part is complete, I do believe Kai is actually going to be using probably more than Bang, believe it or not, which is kind of shocking to me, but I think that's the way it's going to work. Because again, these things just eat up material like crazy. They use up so much material. I want you to be a little bit wider. And so if I want wider, I can do that. Send it through this way. Kind of come down here, see how wide we are. And I can cut off the excess I don't need. And we can go ahead, sandwich that piece right in here. And send through this whole thing, because we now know this is still slightly wide to send through this thing. Awesome. Alright, so that kind of maxes out the size I have of my pasta roller. And that gives us a little more length on this, which is kind of what we want. That actually rolled out pretty well, so I'm okay with that. Okay, let's get some of this stuff out of the way. I don't know why I still have my hands sitting here from before that I never used. I never actually... Sometimes I just keep random stuff, and I don't know why I do it sometimes. Let me keep my watch over there so I can kind of keep an eye on things. We're 15 minutes in. So let's... Okay. So, As much as I like this hat, and I think it's super cute and awesome, we need to not only take out the hat, we're going to take off the head as well. And Marissa's going to have a friend over there for a little bit. And we're just gonna start you. We go down far enough in the back, we go down far enough in the front. So that is good. Now she has a big old collar that comes around her neck here. So as much as nice it is to see that right there, I can go and cut a little. I'm just going to kind of eyeball this circle. I don't want it to be too big. I'd rather start slightly small and keep building bigger than what I need. Although I can see, let me get my calipers up here. We do need to come around here. So I need to be at least that big. Yeah, this is definitely one of those sessions I've been looking forward to and kind of fearing at the same time, because this is one of those that's going to really change the way this whole thing feels in the end. So, bam, perfect. Let's harden it. We're done. And I had forgotten to point out before, in addition to just the fabric going down, you'd also see that arm detail that goes on. We're going to harden this first and then put on that kind of shoulder armor stuff afterwards. The detailing of the buttons and all that going down, kind of the front and around, and like the edging and whatnot, I'm not sure how I want to play that yet, whether I harden this and then add detail or add it onto this when it's done, but I probably shouldn't be talking while this looks so terrible. Okay, so I'm going to want that to come. Now, I'm not worried about it looking funky up front, because up front here is going to be hidden. So I don't need to worry about this not feeling right. Because we're going to have that other piece go right on top. So what I can do is I can start. Okay, that's already giving a little bit of that good feeling that I want. And again, I'm going to need this to come straight down. So in order to get this out, we just need to lift straight up. Which also means we're going to need this neck to be a little bit wider than what we are, because we need to actually make this easier to get on and off. And she does have a very wide collar that goes on, so I don't need to worry about this being ridiculously tight. Oh, that didn't get all of it. That didn't get all of it. Okay, the back's not looking bad. Yeah, already it's... Oh, this is... Alright, so when it comes to hardening this, I'm probably going to need to stick this whole thing in the oven to harden it at least enough that it holds itself. Although anything under here is not going to get burnt, so I shouldn't need to worry about that. But, let's see, I need to move my image that I'm looking at just a little bit. Because I think the back view is going to be more helpful with this in order to try to get that to work. Now this one we will need to remold so it comes in, because I don't want that there. So yeah, you're going to come off, but we're going to need to we will need to kind of flatten this out. Okay, sorry for no talking. I'm concentrating super much. Okay, I don't want you to stick to me. But yeah, so that's starting to do the thing. If it has little kind of undulations and little folds, that's okay. Where do we come down to? So we come down really about there. So let me just cut this off. We're just kind of gradually get this thing to size and cut off parts we don't need. Because I'm hiding so much stuff in here that it's almost like I don't know where to start on certain parts. So let's just... Okay, height-wise, that's not too bad for the point to be right there. So I can take you off, so I don't mind that. Okay, so where do we want shoulder kind of to come up to? Probably about here-ish. Where's the back, or center of the back? So we're probably looking at something... something like that. That comes around, and when we come back to the front, it's going to come down a little bit, but we never actually finished the front here. So for right now, we're just going to cut that off. Let's get this back kind of form where I want it to go first. And then we can jump to the front after that. Which means if this arm is here, we're probably looking at something like that. And coming down to the point that we made over here. Now, stop going to the side. Wants to do a little swoosh thing. I don't want it to do a little swoosh thing, but it wants to do a little swoosh thing. Now that's going to come over and then back down this way. So for right now, I can just peel that off. Let's see, yeah, I think by the end of this session, we're just going to be at a very kind of rough state. But if I can get the rough stuff done here, then we can actually kind of detail things out next time. So that's all I'm really aiming for in this session. So don't expect a finished product or finished looking anything by the end of this. We are just trying to get ourselves started. And really, if I'm going to be doing this in place, and before I get too far on this, what I should do... I'm missing something. 1 second. One of those thoughts that I'm having here is I might want to put a little bit of foil I might just want to have a little bit of foil around this, just so if I'm actually putting this on, it's not going to then, and I want to harden her, it's not going to stick to her then. So this may look a little funky, don't need this much over here. This will also mean that once I put it on, I can just I can keep it on here and I can do all the molding right off of the model. And we will be all good with that. Probably should have. Probably wouldn't hurt to have a piece kind of going right in there. And another piece that kind of wraps around that way. Way too big. Way too big. Let's see. I can take you out. Well, I hope you enjoyed how she looked. It's times they are changing, at least temporarily. Okay, so now with this on here, if I make this properly, I keep it on, I can now do everything right off of the model, and I don't need to worry about this then. If I go to harden it, I don't need to worry about hardening it and having it stick to my model. Which would be very good. Very good. Okay, so what do we want our front end to come off with? And you know what? If we're here... nope, that's not the right one. There we go. Let's actually look at the real image here. It kind of looks like it comes way farther out to the side on this one than it looks like it did on the other drawing. That has it looking like it comes kind of from an upward direction. Here, we're almost coming down. So I need to add a little more to that. I took too much off. Took too much off. That's fine. Actually, realistically, the way to do that is to redo this from the start. Reroll it. Reroll it. It's gonna make the best result is just to do it right. This is part of the process. Okay, so what do we have? If I do that, all right, we just about don't fit in there. That's kind of what we want. Now I can take a little off the edge, send it through. And now once we get to a point where it looks like I don't see any real air pockets, I think we're good to go again. Come down. And the front comes down. Really, front comes way down. Front comes way down to like there. that okay for the back? No, no it's not. We need more up in this area. More clay. Whoop. Alright, so we want that piece to go in there, and I think that's going to help solve some problems. Okay, let me just send this through one more time. I can still kind of feel the hole I'd put in there before. That's probably not good. And notice as I'm folding it, I'm always putting the folded side. I'm always taking the folded side through here first. If you get air pockets, it's allowing the air pockets to escape. If you go this way, that can become problems. So I want fewer problems. It's just the way I am. If things can be done easier, I like easier. Fewer problems tends to be easier. Okay, so that comes down, looks like far enough in the front, and that's going to wind up being far enough in the back. Okay, good. Let's do take two on this. Actually, right, I didn't need to worry about the front. The front's its own separate piece. I'm a ding-dong. Alright, so we have our holes. I should say my guides, so I can make the hole. Whoop. Yeah, I forgot it's a separate piece that goes on the front, not this one. Alright, and just like that, we don't see our problem areas again. Now, in theory, I could make this down here and have this front part be all as one piece, then just kind of put a ridge on here as need be. God, this looks so terrible. So we want our arm really comes out something like that. It does come out quite a ways. Which means this arm is also going to come down, kind of down far over there. Once again, I want to pull that out, bring this up. And just getting my finger behind here to give a little kind of a backing to smooth this up on. What are we at right now? 34 minutes. Okay. We got time to make this all look good. We got plenty of time if I can find what I'm looking for. Okay, let's just kind of gussy this up a little bit. I'm not worried if the inside of this doesn't look necessarily right, because I can feel it. The inside is very much not right. But as long as the outside here has that look, then I think we're going to be okay. Alright, So once again, let's kind of get some of this rough stuff off, just so we can kind of start slowly getting ourselves into the size and or shape that we want. We don't need nearly all of this. All right, so we're getting a little better. Once again, let's start with the back first, because the back looks like it's kind of the easiest. And it comes down, let's see, pants are there. So it comes down something like here. So I want you to kind of go out that way. I want you to kind of come out that way. If we come down, we can see that's actually coming down a little bit lower than I want, but it's also a lot shallower than the angle that's on there. It's shallower than, not you, than that angle. But if we come back to here, it's going to come out to the front about where I want it to. And I think that's ultimately more important. And I think, yeah, I'm just going to make the front its own separate piece and kind of droop it over the edge. You come down, you kind of, if it has a little kind of foldy thing going, that's okay. We do want kind of a clean point on the end, though. I think that's kind of important. Okay, so we kind of want there, so we want a little bit more of an angle. Yeah, we want this to kind of just feel like it's just sitting on the arm. Okay, as it comes over the chest, we need to do some more shenanigans here to make this work. So kind of like we did on the back. This is also why I'm going to do the front as a separate piece. So I don't have to do this thing. I can hide this nonsense. Let's see, this is... going to want some more to come across. Because we don't need this to be super loose. So if I'm doing that, we need this to come down even further. This side's not feeling too bad. Okay, now what we don't want is to undercut the chest. Undercut the chest and I won't be able to lift this thing back out afterwards. Although we can smooth and blend up to the upper part of the chest here without problems. It's this part here trying to blend nicely would be, or these could be issues, although I don't need to really worry about that. Let's see, we're going to have you kind of come down here. That's really all we're going to need on that. The rest of what's here I can use as backing for the next piece that goes on. Oh yeah, this thing is going to be fun to get off in the end. Alright, just kind of cleaning some things up just a little bit. Actually, this side doesn't matter. This side's going to be covered by her big shoulder thing. That at least gets us that. It looks like we're undercutting the chest over here, which is not what we want. Last thing we want to do is undercut the chest, because otherwise, like I said, this will never come off. Now again, I don't have the structure to be able to pull this thing off, so we're just going to need to hope all of this kind of works when we do it. Okay, so with that, we have to roll some more of this. Okay, that looks like all the trash, but that's okay. Because now we can just kind of do that, fold you in, and this should start to smooth it out into something useful. Alright, I could do the front piece next. However, kind of the shoulder parts come down from here, and I'm going to want something wider than that. So let's go and start with these guys together. Oh yeah, create all the problems doing that, that's fine. That is okay if it wants to make problems. Because just need to send it through a couple times and problems will be solved. Look at that, problems are already pretty much solved. Okay, that's not looking bad. I think we have a decent place to start. The question is it big enough? So we need to start kind of under here, going over. Yeah, I think that is, I think size-wise we're going to be okay. So let's say I'm starting from here. I want to come down. How far down do you come? You come down, yeah, pretty much to there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna, just like before, get some of this stuff off that I know I'm not gonna need on here. Okay, so where are we starting? We're starting, yeah, pretty much figure I'm going to be starting around in that range. And it kind of just goes a straight line to here. So if I have that to that, let's see, I see the point right there. I see the point I made on you. And this will kind of give us, whoop, one part of it, maybe. That's going to give me the starting point kind of over here. It's going to droop down. We're going to want it to kind of fold down in there. And where do we come in on the front? gotta wind up coming in somewhere, yeah, around that point again. So let's say we're starting out somewhere in there. I can take you down, bring you across, get my straight edge back over here. Not lose track of that. Realize I didn't cut you 100% straight. That's okay. It's clay. We can work with it. It's one of the benefits of using clay. And now the good thing is, if this works on this side, I can just trace it and do the same on the other before I actually for real install this thing. That's going to come down, just kind of fold out a little bit, something like this. I think that's not too bad. It's going to, like I said, it's going to have little kind of foldy things going on, but I think that's not too bad. So we can just go ahead and trace this for the other side. Which means we need more of our MVP, and our clay is disappearing. Yeah, anything that has to do with fabric just eats up clay. That is one of those things you just need to keep in mind if you're doing your own kind of stuff. So if you're doing arm floats, if you're doing capes, if you're doing scarves, if you're doing the camo stuff like on here, it will just eat up clay. All right, time to shove all of this stuff in here. And this is also why, if you're doing your own stuff, this is fantastic to have. Otherwise, we need to be rolling this by hand. And nobody wants to be rolling this stuff by hand. It's almost impossible to keep things kind of uniformly done. It just takes up a lot of effort, a lot of physical effort to do. It's not good times. That is one of those, been there, done that, don't need to do it again. Oh, look at that. We did the perfect. All right, that's off. Let's get the next side of this little pizza wedge here going. That's off. All right. Okay, so that let go. Let go. Okay, so we have side goes from about, well, come down a little more. So we're going to come from about that point to something like that. So I'm going from about back here to about up there. Only reason I want that is I'm going to put just a little mark on this top. I'm going to put just this little kind of mark on the top there. Now this wants to come under these guys, so it gives me a place to send it. Okay, so far so good on that. And we're going to want to put a couple little almost artificial folds in this. That comes down there, that comes up. It'll give it a little bit of strength. And at least makes it kind of look a little more like fabric. I'm leaning a little more heavily into getting this part done and then hardening it and doing the details on afterwards. Just because, yeah, this could be fun otherwise. You're kind of the same thing. You're going to start up here. We can't really see much from behind the rifle on that, which I had pointed out to me the other day when I was listing things I had to do on the model. I forgot to kind of mention the rifle has to be done. So yeah, at some point I got to do that too, in terms of things that need to be completed in that. I think I had like 8 hours left worth of stuff I had figured this was going to be. Yeah, there's that. Okay, so on here, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to mark a little bit there, mark a little bit over here. I can mark a little bit right there. We can see now if we can get you to go under here. I don't think we're perfect yet. We're not in there. We're not in there. Oh, this side is not going to want to go up. There's not as much free space on this side to raise. There is plenty of room to get this thing to go in. Problem is, it's trying to get a soft piece of something in there which isn't going to want to go. Wow, we're already at 50 minutes. When did that happen? Okay, so that's kind of in there. That's not looking too bad. Again, details are a little rough, details are very rough. But let's just smush this in just so we can kind of hold itself. Oh, any idea what this side is kind of? No, not really. So we're gonna probably do a little bit of the same thing, bring you around and just kind of curl it a little bit there. So it has a little something going on. Let me bring that in just a little. Okay, so that's getting somewhere. Let's put this. I know we're going to be really late. This might actually go a little bit longer. I want to get this front piece on too. And then next time we'll do kind of the collar and get this thing going for real. But this is one of those necessary parts that just had to be done. So we get ones like this where it doesn't necessarily look the greatest by the end, but it is a necessary part into making it look good by the end. Alright, and she is just about gone through an entire pound of this clay. So believe it or not, she is going to wind up being more massive than Bang in the end. That's kind of incredible a little bit in a way. You know, it's the 100th episode slash session slash whatever you want to call it that I'm doing here, so it's okay if it goes a little long. We're celebrating. This is exciting. Super good. That said, what I hadn't mentioned before is I had planned on doing 4 sessions this week. I'd add a Sunday session until I realized I 100% forgot before that I actually have an out-of-state wedding I need to go to this weekend. So that may or may not come to fruition, having the extra session. Following week, yes. Following week, I can 100% get more stuff done. But, yeah, kind of forgot that slight, small detail that I might be doing some other stuff. So we will see how that works. Okay. But again, if I do more stuff or whatever, I will let you know before anything actually happens. Now this one comes down kind of right to where the 2 legs come together. So you come across there. And it looks like you're kind of going about the collar width, which is probably something like that to something like that. Let me try out this kind of sizing first. And then we can always bring it back afterwards if it doesn't work. Alright, that's done. Now I think this is going to get a little skinnier as it gets up to the neck. So right now I'm making the lines kind of parallel, more or less. And just for kicks and giggles, in case this winds up being the wrong size, how big am I? Let's say 1 3/4. In case it feels big or feels small, I can then use that to determine where to go from there. Now this kind of comes down along the sides of the fingers. That's going to be okay. So if I do this, you can come down straight. Not feeling too terrible about this. To migrate that point over just a little bit. We didn't 100% center you. Nice. I think I do at least get at this point here, come up in just a little. Be good. No. Have you come in just a little bit. So kind of when we do the collar, it'll come in kind of about where that collar wants to be. We don't need to make this as obvious, so we can carve a little more of you as well. It can shrink a little bit. We don't need to make it obvious that it's shrinking a little bit. A couple little lines on here that don't need to be on here. I don't know where they came from, but they can be gone. that's that's our general kind of starting point on this. Now it will get better as we go, but this is our starting point. So next time is going to be all about refining this thing. We're going to start making it look good. We needed to get this part done so that as we go on now, we can start, making this all kind of work in the end. But no, not bad. Not bad, not bad. As long as once this gets hardened, I can lift it up. That will be the real test whether or not this is good or not. But we're going to deal with that probably after next time. I'm going to do everything I can kind of up until hardening next time, which should be then, I'll probably do the detailing stuff. I'll do the edging. We'll get kind of the buttons going on here. And really it is just kind of edge. It's really going to be the collar, the edging, and the buttons. That's really all I need on this. This will get hardened. And then after this is hardened, we're going to do this whole detail thing that goes up there. But no, I'm glad I got this part now done. I knew this was going to look like she's dressed up for Halloween. It's just, until this gets painted, that's just what this is. But yeah, now from here on out, we're going to cross our fingers that when we harden it, we will be able to lift the whole thing up. I also need to put down the folds and whatnot in here because, again, it looks like you can see a chest on this. The idea was then build up the fake chest so we can get the folds inside. But yep, that'll be next time. And until then, until episode 101 coming up, enjoy.